Okay, so I'll just start sharing the whiteboard, and what we are going to want to understand is what we'll see. It will be more of a sample table we'll pick up, like an employee table or something, and then we'll try to showcase the data in case of a React. So I'll just pick up whiteboard. Let me know once you see it. Yeah, I hope the whiteboard is visible now.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. So, what is the agenda? What we'll have here is we'll use SQL Server database, wherein we'll just have employee table, okay, a simple table basically with few fields. We'll plan to define web APIs using Microsoft.NET Core, okay. So MVC/web APIs. And regarding the security, regarding the deployment, we'll have a separate session altogether. So this is going to be the server side, okay. And then using this web API side, we will have the get, post, put, delete kind of verbs exposed. So get, post, put, and delete kind of verbs will be exposing. And then there will be a React application altogether, which will be running. So that will be running on different port, obviously. So the React application, wherein we'll just have one single component developed. Now, those who are aware of React component concept, you will notice that there is something which is called as functional component and class component as a concept. So in this case, we'll be defining one functional component, okay, or function component instead of calling it as a function component. So function component, which will do all the dashboarding, which means we'll have the CRUD operations done and APIs called. Okay. So just take an example. This is going to be running on different port number. So port number X. Okay. And the MVC web API application will be running on some port number Y. And for obvious reasons, everything will be handled. I mean, calls will be given first of all to the React application. So we'll have the UI out here. So once we shoot a call, we'll have a UI in React. And then we'll be calling using React, we'll be shooting call to something that is called as web API applications. And then specifically, since the ports are different, consider it as different applications altogether. Consider it as different websites altogether. And those who are aware of it, normally what happens is if at all we need to shoot a call from A website to B website's content, in that case, what we need to do is we need to have the CORS issues settled. Okay. So CORS issues handled. We need to handle that on the server side. So CORS issues handled, specifically for these calls, we need to do all the changes specifically on the server side. So that server side can allow any other website or any other what you call as domain to shoot a call and allow the calls. So we'll be having calls issues handled specifically on the server side so that we can allow the calls from the React application. Now, later on, once we are done, if it is not possible today, but then what we'll do is we'll try to deploy this application later on, maybe in the separate session altogether. We will have this application deployed on Azure. So this will be deployed on Azure later on. So this is Azure. So you can use free account of Azure, which is there for with $200 credit. So Azure hosted, this can be there. And then this can be hosted specifically. Another free host we can plan. It can be Azure itself, or it can be something which is, maybe in Netlify or so. So we can have this thing hosted on Netlify. So the React application can be hosted on Netlify just for the sake of hosting. So it can be on Netlify. It's a free host. So Netlify hosted, we can call it. And then literally one can see that A website is giving call to B website kind of a part. Okay. So if at all today it is not possible, then definitely we'll plan to host the application sometime later. We'll also be planning to host SQL Server database as well in the next session. So let's try to save this and jump to the code itself. Okay, so what we are planning to do now will be planning to define the .NET Core application first. So we'll define and we will test this application using Postman. So I'll go to share screen and let me start sharing entire screen for you. Let me know once you see the screen, guys. Can you see the screen? You can unmute yourself and talk.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now let's go ahead and plan to define out here. Let's create a folder and name it as a webinar. Okay. And let's define one .NET application in here. So specifically for doing that, what we need to do is we need to have Microsoft SQL Server database. So what we can do is we can open MS SQL Server. Okay. So we'll need SQL Server. I'll be using SQL Server Management Studio to create SQL Server database table. And meanwhile, I'll also be opening Visual Studio. I won't eat up your, Sunday specifically. I mean, Saturday. So what I'll try to do is I'll try to make it quick. Okay. So the database name, I'll connect using Windows credentials. And under the databases, let's plan to have a webinar database created first. Okay. And let's try to connect and have a new query fired. Okay. So with webinar as in database, which is there, okay, you may say use webinar. And we can just have a sample employee table constructed. So we can just have create table, EMP. We can just have a few fields, number as an integer. This would be a primary key. And this can be an identity column in itself. We can have name, maybe as in varchar 50 or so. And then we can plan to have maybe another field like address, which can be another varchar 50. It's just a sample table. And then we can plan to have this query executed. So we have it executed now. We can go ahead and comment this code and let us try to add in some sort of sample records into it. So we can just have insert into EMP. Since number is auto generated, we can have name and address column information added. The values, and we can just add a couple of values. Let's add values like, we have Anuj. Let's say just one polling. And we can just have some data copy pasted. We have Bhautik. We have, speaking of randomly, we have Akshita, we have Anurag, and we have Anurag. Let's say this is the data, sample data that we have. Okay, so we just add this and execute it. So we are done. So we have the sample data added. I'll comment this. We'll plan to execute this and we have this data available. So there are 4 records as of now. Now, the next thing that we need to understand, I hope, this portion is something which, is pretty clear. Now, what we need to do is we need to define a MVC web application. And in that case, what we need to do is a core web app or core MVC application, wherein we'll not be using any kind of a UI, but we'll be building APIs. Okay, is what is needed. So I'll just pick up now MVC core web app and specifically the MVC application. Here we go. So ASP.NET Core Web App, and in round bracket, what you see is Model View Controller. So we'll just pick this up. This is going to be core application. Let's try to store this application somewhere in the folder, which is webinar. So let's have here folder, and let's call this as a server application. Okay, maybe a server the solution name can be a server. And then let's say next, this will simply ask us, like, what kind of a .NET Core version you would like to utilize. This is Visual Studio 2022. So the default, latest that I have is .NET 8.0 Core. So we'll just pick this up. I'll ignore the secure socket layer as of now, and we'll just say create. So we have the application now. And likewise, if you can see, under the solution, there is already one controller, there is already one model, error model, and there are views or a sample view like index view and privacy view. Okay. So if at all we try to run this application, whether it's on Kestrel server or anything else. So, okay, you can run this on Kestrel server or you can run this on IIS Express, is all up to you. I'll just pick this up on Kestrel so that a console starts, the Kestrel server starts, and Kestrel server acts as a host. In case you wish to work with IIS Express, a random port number will be picked up and IIS Express, as in service running, will be able to host and run the application. So .NET Server, we're going to go and start as a Kestrel server. So I'll just click on Run HTTP. So it will by default start Kestrel server. So there will be console. Now the Kestrel starts. And the default home index kind of action method eventually gets caught. Okay. And this is MVC application, wherein by default we have home, we have privacy kind of pages available. Okay. There is no security, nothing, no safety, nothing. Okay. And the by default port number picked up is 5284. That's absolutely okay. This is Kestrel server. Now what we need to do is we are not interested in generating UI on the server side. We are just interested in kind of having CRUD operations done with respect to the database. So in database table EMP, we need to do the CRUD operations. So few ways exist. One of the way is we can use a plain ADO.NET, which is very old now. Okay. The next approach that we have with respect to the, let's export this. So there's another thing that we have out here is we can use entity framework to basically do the mapping. Okay. So between the core API and SQL server, we have several options available. We can use plain ADO.NET. We can use entity framework. Okay. And in entity framework, we have again couple of options. We can have a model first approach. Now in the model first approach, what you have here is something like, you would actually end up defining the class employee first, which would be mapped with what we call it as which will be mapped with database later. So which means we define a class and then the table can be generated automatically. The next approach is that we have something which is called as, DB first approach. Now, in this case, the classes are supposed to be generated automatically. But now what is the thing that we have here? We already have a table constructed. We also have a sample data also added into it. So I'm just going to go and have for namesake, I'm just going to go and create something which is called as employee class. So the employee class will be mapped exactly with respect to employee table in case of database. So there are a few things. If at all you already have a database already created, which is normally the situation that you define the DB first, and then, or even if you have a class first kind of a approach, then you would end up defining and identifying classes first, and then you can generate the what you call as tables later. But now considering the fact that we already have a table defined and created, let me do one thing now. Let me try to map this with respect to, let me start sharing the screen. Share, continue screen. Here we go. So back to the code now. So I need to use entity framework to map the employee class with respect to something that is called as employee table. So a few of the options that we have, I am just going to go and delete this home controller. I'm going to go and delete all the views which we have already. Okay. And I'm going to go and delete the model as well that we already have. So I'll delete this model as well. This model is deleted. So there is nothing in this MVC application as of now. But likewise, and like I said, I have something like, a class here. I'll add the class. Let's name it as employee. And with the table employee, we know already that we have a few fields. So let's try to add a few properties here. Let's add a property like number, and let's add a property that is name. And let's add the property that is address. So what is it that happens now is we have these fields available. Now, object of an employee should hold the data from one record at a time. So one employee object will hold Anuj's data. One employee object will hold Anurag's data. Another object will hold Bhautik's data, and so on and so forth. So the thing is, we want to map this employee class with respect to employee table. And hence, what we need is to do the mapping and to fire the query and collect the data. What we'll need is we will need something which is entity framework packages, which do not exist by default in case of MVC core application. So for that purpose, under the dependencies, if the internet is working, what you can do is you can add Nugget packages. And then from the browse section, let us go and try to browse nugget.org so that we can get all the entity framework core related packages. So let's go and search for entity framework core. So by default, we'll have to get 4 packages from the nugget.org or from the Nugget packages manager. So we'll need first package Microsoft Entity Framework Core. I'll be picking up 8.0. 8.0.19 will also do. Okay, so let's install this. It will just install the packages and all the dependencies. Let's accept this. I'll be sharing these steps of Entity Framework mapping with you all. We'll also need one more thing. We'll need Entity Framework, Design, SQL Server, and Tools. These are the packages that we will need. I'll just get the design. I'll also get the SQL Server. And I'll also be getting the tools as well. This is the last package we need. Okay. All with the same version. In case you are working with .NET Core 8.0, 19, 9.0, then please go ahead and pick up 9.0 related packages. So now if you can see, I guess we need to simply refresh and check. We have core, design, tools, and SQL Server package, I guess, is not added. Let us see. We need to have a SQL Server package. Okay, we missed that package. So let's go ahead and search for Entity Framework Core and get the SQL Server package as well. This is a package we missed. Let's add and accept. Okay, so we have these 4 packages added now, as you can see, EF Core, EF Design, then EF SQL Server, and then EF Core Tools. Okay, these packages are needed. And now specifically, so that we can map this with respect to table employee. In case, if this wouldn't have been EMP table, EMP class, if imagine the table name is EMP and this class name, we would need maybe from the coding standard perspective, suppose employee, or maybe something like, maybe we will need a BVS employee. So in that case, to map this with respect to employee table, what you would end up having is a table attribute, which will eventually come from the annotations, what you call the namespace. And we can always convey the table name. So if the table name would have been EMP, but the class name we wanted is employee, that will also do. So such kind of mapping can be done. The table employee can be mapped with employee class in that case. Okay, I'll keep it same. And one of the important factors while we start working with respect to EF, one of the aspect that we need to understand is that the table must have a primary key. That's one of the compulsion that we have. So let's try to add out here a key attribute, which eventually comes from this data annotations namespace only. So the only thing that you need to understand is this is specifically so that we can have certain what you call identifications done. Only adding key here is not sufficient. We'll also need to ensure that the database table also has a primary key. So database table has a primary key, and that is basically kind of brought in here with respect to key attributes so that we can have certain searches, we can have certain link queue functions work because of the key attribute. Now, who is going to go and help us collect the data into employee class object as a collection? For that purpose, we'll need another class. And that class is going to be a context class. So I'm just going to go and add in here another class now. Okay. Let's class, the class name can be normally the database name and the word context kind of a combination always works. So whatever is your database name, my database name is webinar. Okay, and then the word context. Normally that's the trend that you will see, but then based on the coding standard of your company or based on the coding standard that you follow, you may add up any kind of a name out here. Normally I follow this practice wherein the what you call database name and the context word is something which I add. Now this database webinar database related class, which is called as webinar context, is going to go and help us bring all the data specifically on the application side. And to do that, what we want is we would request here that I need something. I need a collection which is given to us, which is of type DB set, the collection of DB set. Okay. And then we need the collection, a generic collection of employee class type. Okay. And let us call this collection as in EMPS. So the overall idea is whenever webinar context data object gets created, we will have the data in employee collection, which is this generic collection. And who will be firing query on top of database? We will not do any of it. The webinar context internally will do all the magic. But then where is the code written specifically to fire the query and get the things done or get the CRUDOPS done? Normally, a generic code is written inside a base class, which is called as data context. Okay, or DB context. So we'll have DB context as in class. So we'll be inheriting from DB context, and majorly the base itself has all generic code written with respect to like collecting the data into this collection from the employee table, populating the data out here, and based on the CRUD operations done against the webinar context or this collection, having the changes done in case of database itself. But then the question comes up, who would actually tell what is the connection string required out here? We have a couple of ways to basically specify the connection string. So one way is we can add a service in case of the application program.cs, typically in the main method. When in MVC we keep on adding services. Or second option, we can override a method over here to specify the connection string, which is called as on configuring. And in here, what we can convey is to the option builders, we can actually go and convey use SQL Server, and we can convey the connection string details. So under use SQL Server, we have an option to specify connection string. Right now, I'm just going to go and hardcode this, but then normally the connection strings can be taken up from application settings.json file. Okay. Normally this JSON file is similar to the, like we used to specify web config, and we used to specify connection strings under the web config. Just like that, we can actually go and specify connection strings in app settings.json. So as of now, I'm just going to go and get the connection string from the data connection side. So let me do one thing. Let me pick up the server name first. So the server name was this instance name. Let me go ahead and add a connection here. So the server name was this Windows authentication. Sorry, it is not create database, it is connect a database. So let's add a connection. Server name is this Windows authentication. And I would just need the database name, that is webinar. Okay, so this is the webinar I need. We can test the connection and we can just say add out here. Okay. So now that we have out here the connectivity done, you can also check the database tables from here itself. I need a connection string. So instead of typing, I'll be copying this connection string from here, properties window, and I'll just have this connection string copied here. So I guess we missed. Hold on. This is the connection string we would need. Okay. So the entire connection string is specified. Like I said, the connection string changes and it should be configurable. So better we can put it in the environment variables, or we can also put it in the app settings.json. So we have here the connection string specified. Now what would happen whenever somebody creates an object of webinar context? By default, the EF is going to go and connect to this database. It's going to go and bring the data from the, it's going to go and populate a collection. Now this collection model simply specifies the table name is EMP. So it fires a query on top of EMP, collects all the data from the EMP, creates a collection of employee kind of class objects, populate it over here in EMPS. And if at all we keep on adding something, removing something, or deleting something from the EMPS collection, the same changes can be reflected in the database itself using the same connection string. So we are free from all CRUD operations to be done with respect to database using EF. So we have just maybe saved some code. And now the next thing is, how are we going to go and communicate with the database? Like, when the kind of selection will happen, when the updations and when the deletions will happen, that is going to be based on top of get, post, put, delete. So what we are going to go and do is, under the controllers, let's add a API controller now. Okay. So normally people who have been working on MVC application, they have a habit of writing controllers, then writing action methods, and keep on returning the views. We have no intention of returning views. We have an intention of writing only data and getting only data. So we can very well go to the APIs side, and then we can just have API controller instead of empty. Let's pick up API controller with read write actions, which means there will be some sort of what you call it as get, post, put, delete, return with respect to something called as a string as in class. And I guess that should be sufficient. So we'll pick up API controller with read write actions, nothing with respect to EF, because sometimes this template generates the code. Sometimes we end up in exceptions. So we'll just have everything done from the scratch by ourselves. So we have a API controller read write action. Let's add this here. By default, we'll name it as same as that of what you called as, the employees collection. So I'll be putting it as EMPS. So employees controller, which will basically pull the data from the employee table, and then we'll be dealing with EMPS collection all the time. So I'll be adding here EMPS controller. Now, if you can see and observe out here, guys, we have by default a class available, which is called as EMPS controller. And whenever somebody shoots a call to a root, API slash a controller name, which means API slash EMPS. So whenever somebody shoots a call to API slash EMPS, then if it's a get kind of a call, okay, I assume that everyone has a basic knowledge about get, post, put, delete. That is a basic web programming knowledge. That is something which is what I assume. So if anybody shoots a call to API slash EMPS, and if it's a kind of a get call, we will end up getting string collection. But we are not interested in getting string collection. We are majorly interested in getting employees collection. So I would be interested in getting employee collection. And for employee, I would need a model namespace, server.model. So server is a project name, and a main namespace name, and EMP is a part of this namespace. And that's the reason under here we have imported server.models. So right now, collection of employees will be given back. And who will give it back? So ultimately what we'll need is, we'll need a webinar context object. So in general, I'll just have here a webinar context object created. Okay, so let me have a webinar context object created. So it's a webinar context equal to new webinar context. I'll create it here itself commonly. Okay, and then this webinar context object is just going to go and help us do the CRUD operations. How is that? This way. So return webinar context object dot, since it's a private member, I'll better follow the coding standard. So webinar context dot, and there was a collection called as EMPS. The only thing I'm interested in is this EMPS collection given by the webinar context object was DB set collection, a generic collection. Right now, I would be interested in converting this into a list. And that's it. We have our first API, a GET API ready. So webinar context will communicate with database on our behalf. We'll populate the content into EMPS collection. We will convert that into a list using extension method, and we will have a collection of employees written from here. In a similar manner, there is get by ID kind of a API that we have. So whenever somebody shoots a call to API slash EMPS, we would like to find the employee of respective ID. Okay, so and we will be returning single employee from here. So to return a single employee, what we need is we need to return EMPS, and we need to use a find method. Keep it in mind, find only works if at all we have primary key in the table and also mapped in case of the model class. So find with respect to something that is ID. So with respect to ID, when we get something, we'll be replying back. Now this is normally nullable content. So we can always mention this is nullable. So question mark will help. So we'll be returning, if at all we don't find anything, we'll be anyway getting null. So let us return nullable kind of a content from here. So EMP and question mark. So then post, which means in case somebody tries to post the data, from the client side. So in that case, we'll be collecting the data of employee over here. So we can collect the employee's data. And in order to basically get the data or save the data, whatever new data that is given by the end user in JSON format mostly, we can, under the collection, we can add something in this collection that is newly added employee. Okay. And then just to ensure that the data, this line will simply add the data into the collection. We are interested in saving this into database as well. So what we can do is we can have webinar context object dot save changes. Okay, so this line will add the data into the collection, and this line will simply save it in case of database. So if the data is correct, we'll definitely be able to save this. Put request is more like an update. Okay, so we need to find by ID, and we need to have the employee changed kind of data available over here. So, okay, updated employee, we can hold it as. So whenever somebody shoots a call and gives us updated employee, we are interested first of all finding the employee. So let's find the employee first. Okay, so let's find the employee first. So employee, and let's say EMP to be updated. Okay, we need a reference of it. So we'll say find. And then since it is nullable, we can also mention this. We can also plan to check out here if EMP to be updated is not equal to null. If it is not null, then let's go ahead. And then we can just try to save something like EMP to be updated. We won't be able to update the numbers being a primary key. Let's change the name property. And then let's also change EMP to be updated dot address, okay, equal to the updated employee address. And then to ensure everything basically changes, we have webinar context dot save changes, which means we will do the collection kind of a reference change first, and then we'll be updating the database later on. And to do the delete operation, what we would need is we will need to search the employee first. Okay, EMP to be deleted, let us say. We'll have the ID passed on by the user. And once we have the employee to be deleted available, let's go ahead and say underscore webinar context dot emps dot remove. Okay, and remove is employee to be deleted. This is something will be removed. So let's remove this employee to be deleted from here. If obviously, if it's not. So if is not null, then save this. And to ensure that all changes are updated back to the save server, database server, we'll have save changes done. So keep it in mind, save changes is the one which does the changes with respect to database. Everything else that we have been trying, like, maybe removing something or updating something, before the save changes is happening in the collection itself. And we are done. So API/EMPS get will do the selection, get by ID will do, maybe ID based selection, post will do the addition, put will do the updation, and delete will delete the record from the server side. And then right now, what we have here is almost everything is done, okay, with respect to APIs. The only thing is under the program.cs, there are some extra objects that we have. So at a global level, there are some objects initialized, if you see. This is, obviously, even if I don't do changes out here, still it's okay. But the thing to understand is why to have extra objects in a memory if at all we don't need one. So in that case, what you see, when you see services added, there are services in the sense, all the global objects that we need so that in MVC we can handle views as well as controllers. Those are objects going to get initialized because of this line. See, we are not creating views anywhere in case of server side. So I'm going to go and delete the views folder itself. So I have no interest in generating views in this case. And since there is no interest in generating views, why would I need a views related services like locate the view, process the view? Objects required are view engines, for example, and view engine objects or view objects. Why would I need those objects? And that's the reason what I'm going to go and do is I'm going to go and make the application better in terms of memory usage. And I'm just going to go and say add controllers. I have no interest in, maybe having add controllers with views. I'll just say add controllers. Keep it in mind, having add controllers with views causes no harm, but then it, has no benefit either. It causes no harm, but it has extra memory, utilization, because it initializes some extra objects which are important specifically from the views perspective. So I have removed that. Now, will this work? Let's see if at all, we plan to, use this. I'll just go and try to say, run this application first, and let us try to test it over the browser first. I'm just going to go and run this application again. Okay. Let's wait. It should open up a browser. Okay. And now I'll be shooting call to API/AMPS. Now, when you shoot a call, what you should be able to see is there's a data available because of the GET request. So we have data of Anuj, Bhautik, Akshita, and Anurag available out here. Okay. And this is something what we need to do is we need to utilize now. So what I'm going to go and do, this data, which is basically kind of, made available. So this API/EMPS only GET API can be tested with Elva browser, only browser rather, without constructing UI. I'm interested in testing all the APIs. And for that purpose, let us start using Postman. So Postman is a tool we can use to test the APIs. So let's start Postman. I'm sure you guys are getting this so far. A quick, check if at all you guys are getting this. Maybe in the chat window, if you can just mention. Yeah. Okay, great. Okay, assuming that you are getting this, I'll just jump to this API. I'll rather create a call. You can see the Postman. I'm just going to go and shoot a call to the API that we have created. So let's shoot a call API/EMPS. You can see the GET call was given and the data is available out here. Okay. I am interested in sending a post call as well and see if the changes happen in database. So let's have this URL copied. Let's try to say post. Okay. So instead of GET, I'll have a post now. I wish to send the data in the JSON format. So I'll just pick up JSON and let's try to add in here some data. We'll be expecting data. Okay. We'll be expecting data in here. So let's pass on number. Rather, number won't be required. The reason behind that is, the number is auto-generated. So we can just pass on name and we can just have a key added out here. Let's add a key as in, hold on. Okay. So key added, and let's try to add in some data, maybe Rajesh, comma. Let's add address as in fields. And let's add over here Mumbai. So what you see is Rajesh and Mumbai. This is the data that we are going to pass on. I'll be sending post request. When the data basically gets sent, you can see 200 OK is the result that you get. Okay. Does that mean data is added? You can very well check it here itself. There were 4 records. Let's refresh and check. Now there's a 5th record as well available. So a new record, which is Rajesh and Mumbai related record, is already added into the database. The what you call it as column names basically have a capital letters, so name and address, while we are basically sending, which is anyway mapped with the class called as EMP. EMP has a name and address as in kind of properties. Now, in a similar manner, in case we wish to go ahead and do the put request, so same call, a put request, and I wish to change Rajesh's record. Okay, so number of the Rajesh's record is 5. So I'll be sending 5 as an ID in the header. And then in here, whatever data I had sent, the rest of the data in a JSON format. Okay, I'll be sending. So instead of Rajesh, let's have over here, let's change Rajesh to Rajeshwar. Okay, and let's change Mumbai to Chennai. So what do you see? 5th record belongs to Rajesh, and I'm changing now Rajeshwar to Chennai. And then this time it's not post, it's a put request. So I'm going to go and update the name and update the address specifically for Rajesh, whose ID is 5. ID is basically being sent in the header, and rest of the data is basically being sent in the body. As you can see it here, in this case, in the EMPS controller, you may notice this, that under the put, we are expecting ID from the URL, okay? And then we are expecting from the body the rest of the employee content, okay? So let's go to the postman and let's send a call. While you send a call, again 200 OK is the reply that we end up getting. If you just check again on the browser, it was Rajesh and Mumbai. If I just refresh now, because of the put request, fifth record changed from Rajesh to Rajeshwar, and address changes from Mumbai to Chennai, which means the update is also successful. And now the last one, in case which normally people don't do, but then just for the sake of completing the operations promised, we'll have get and we'll have the delete operation. Okay, so we'll send 5 as an ID as a with the delete request. Now once we send it, we'll also be able to have 200 OK over here. And what you can notice is we can very well go and see and refresh out here. Now only 4 records exist. Fifth record is all gone. But then keep it in mind, the count is still 5. One is gone, which means next record, if at all I add, I will always see the number as in 6 from the DB perspective. Okay. The record is gone, but the counter has already reached to 5. So here onwards, new record added, we'll have, the first record that we'll add after this will be 6 as in number. So we have all the CRUD operations finished with respect to the web API using .NET Core. Now, obviously, nobody wants to go and do all the CRUD operations using the Postman as in tool. So what we need is now, we need a client side to be built. And to build the client side, as discussed in the webinar topic, what we need is, we need a React application now. So what I'm going to go and do, I'm just going to go and stop this application for a while. Okay, let us jump to and create a React application. Now to create a React application, we have multiple number of options available. So I'm just going to go and add a folder here. This was server. Now I'll just create a client application. Okay. And the client application, let us open command prompt. And we need to create a React application. So we have options available. One of the option that you have is we can use something which is called as the create React app kind of a template. Okay. Or second option that we can have is we can use white as in, the option. So whether to use white as a template, or whether to use or wait as a template, or whether to use something which is called as create React app. The choice is yours. I'll just pick up the, the old template that we used to use. It really doesn't matter which template you guys use. But then it's just a React application and Axios is what matters, and one component. So specifically for creating the application, let us do one thing now. Let us have create React app or npm install create React app. Or we can also have npx, I believe. Okay, anyway, let's have npm install create React app. This will simply have the a create React app template basically constructed. Okay, let's have npx extract create React app template. And let us create a client application. So I'm just going to go and create client app. Okay, under the folder client, we'll have a client app constructed. So this will be installing all the basic what you call as packages, which we will need. In case you're using white as a template or wheat as a template, in that case, what you can do is you will see it creates a template, it creates a project quickly, but then later on to have the packages, you will anyway end up doing npm install. So whether you do the npm install later in case of wheat to run the application, or whether create React app basically creates the template and runs the template or runs the or downloads the packages first, it really doesn't matter. If at all you see this, wheat is way faster compared to create React app because of the hot module update. So the hot update feature makes the wait unique. And anyway, create React app template have stopped the updates. So it's always better to use wait. I'll just use the old template create React app. It doesn't matter. It's just a matter of running a couple of commands. So we'll wait. Meanwhile, if you guys have any questions, feel free to put it in the chat window. I'm waiting for any messages if you have. Anything in the chat window in case you have concerns. Okay. So there are no questions. So I believe we are good to go. Okay. So we have this thing created. Now let's also navigate to client app. We'll also need a couple of installations. So we'll need Axios as in template. So npm install Axios. Axios is XML HTTP request, maybe extension or wrapper. So we'll install Axios, which will eventually be helping us do the get, post, put, delete with respect to database. Okay. Let's open this template now in VS Code. And under this React application, what you can notice now, okay, under the package.json, you can see it yourself that the packages that we have added is like, the basic React packages, plus we have installed Axios, okay, which is kind of a wrapper to XML HTTP request. Let's remove what is not required here. Let's remove this. Let's remove whatever is absolutely not required at the moment. So I'm just going to go and remove whatever is not necessary. I'll also try to make the SRC folder as well to some extent less in size. So the application is neat and clean now. Under the HTML, something that I really don't need as of now. I'm just going to go and remove certain things, make it clean and neat. So what you see as of now is what you have here is just a HTML kind of a page. This we can call it as a client to API. Okay, in React. And this is a div ID equal to root, a empty div, which basically is responsible for showcasing the data. Okay. And normally under the div ID equal to root, the data will be added by this index.js. Index.js and the rest of the JS files basically gets patched up into that index.html page as a with what you call as a bundle.js later on. Okay. So all the files, all the JS files dependent on each other in React will be clubbed, will be packaged, will be what you call it as uglified and minified. And then one file will be added into index.html out here that you will notice later. And as of now, whatever is absolutely not required, I'm just going to go and remove it. Okay, I'll just make this simple, very simple. Remove this. So what you see right now is there's the React a package and React DOM expected. What we need is root render and we need a component right now. So there is no component created. Component in the sense some function or class which is going to go and have all the UI and at the same time it's going to go and communicate with the what you call server side. So I'm just going to go and add here a component, so I'll just call it as dashboard, a DB component. Okay, a db.jsx extension, JavaScript XML. And I'm just going to go and add out here one thing which is called as a functional component. To create a functional component, I'm just going to go and use certain shortcuts. Let's use here as a dashboard. So in the file called as db.jsx, I have a dashboard as in the content. So dashboard. And now what is it that is expected now? We need to showcase some sort of data in the table TRTD format. So a couple of things that we can do to showcase the data, we can use Bootstrap. So I'm just going to go and install Bootstrap as well. So npm install Bootstrap @latest. Okay, so we'll just have the Bootstrap latest version installed in the client application as well. So we have that as well available. And instead of going for a global import, I'm just going to go and have a local import out here. So dashboard will be imported locally. So let's say import. Let's have // Let's import from the node modules. Let's import from Bootstrap. Let's import from distribution from CSS. Let's import bootstrap.css. Again, I guess this is it. This will have almost everything. Bootstrap.css. This is the file that we have imported. You can always have a global import. Now, in here, what we need to showcase is a table. Okay, so let's have empty container first. Those who are good at React or those who know React, they know what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to return some sort of UI from create a UI from this component. Okay. My intention is to showcase some sort of table which is responsive. For that purpose, I use div. I'll have a class name putter. Typical class name is just to showcase the content. I'll have a container first. Okay. There's another div I would need. I'll have a class name putter. Let's call this as a table dash responsive. Okay. And under this div, let's have a table, and table, I'll have a class name as in table and table dash bordered. Okay. In this table, there is nothing. Okay. Just an empty table. Now, what I'm supposed to do is in this container, I'll also have same sort of div added later. Okay. So I'll better go to this table responsive. They can be HR and they can be another HR ruler, and then they can be one more table. Okay, so I just have two tables. I'll tell you the reason why do I need this table. Okay, the first table, first of all, this is for CRUD operations. I mean, rather instead of CRUD operations, let's call this as a addition kind of updation. For that, I'll need this table later. So as of now, let's focus on the below table. So the below table that we have out here, which is responsive in nature, I need to showcase all the records. Okay, to showcase all the record, what you need is we need a T header. Okay, we need a TH, and in the TH, what we need is we need something which is called as a focus on. What are we trying to showcase? We're going to want to showcase number of the person. We are going to want to showcase name of the person. We are going to want to focus address of the person. And plus, whenever somebody tries to click on the record, I'm going to want help person edit, and I'm going to want help person remove the record. Okay, these are the four columns that I'm going to want to have. But then in this particular table, literally, there is nothing available as of now. So under the T body, I need a TR. But how many TR we need? We have no idea because the data depends on the server side. Okay. So what we are supposed to do to get the data out here, we need a collection. Okay. So specifically to hold a collection in case of React, what you end up doing is you end up using something which is called as a state variable. Okay. And to hold a state variable, we will need one hook to be used. So we'll be using a hook over here. Let us try to have out here a constant. Let's have emps, set emps as in function, and we can expect all of this from use state as in hook. So what is it that the emps collection will be holding initially? It will be holding empty collection. Okay. So this will hold empty collection. To hold empty collection, okay, this collection will be the collection which we have seen specifically on the browser, which basically has number, name, and address. Okay. And to do that job, what I need is now this. I need to use that employee collection, and to showcase the data, I need some sort of looping here. Okay. So I'll need some sort of JavaScript code in here. So we can just say for all the EMPs, I wish to iterate, get one employee at a time. And then we need to showcase something which is called as one TR at a time. We need to showcase. Okay. So let us say, and let's return from here. Rather, yeah, the return will also do. A return every time a new TR. So we'll be returning every time a new TR. And in TR, we'll be returning TD every time. And that TD will be holding a data, which is EMP dot. EMP will have a number. Okay. EMP will also hold a name, and EMP will also hold an address. So this is EMP dot number, this is EMP dot name, this is EMP dot address. Okay, just to help you understand that this is going to be seen clearly, I'm just going to go and add a couple of data records over here. So you already have seen the records out here. Okay, you saw in get request, there were some records like this. Okay, let me just have couple of records copied for time being, just to see the React application separately working fine. Okay, so in this thing, I have this added, hard-coded record. So as of now, hard-coded record, because I'm testing the React application separately. Okay, so this is the content that we have. This is the React application. Okay. Use a state. Use a state is a hook. Okay, so you need to have a basic understanding of React in that case. So specifically in case of React, to what you call to hold the data, maybe from database, or whether it's just like you can compare this with session, okay, in case of server side. So the data that we are going to go and use and manipulate will be held by somebody called as a state variable. And use state, if at all we start using, it's a made up what you call it as a function, which basically gives you a variable and a function to basically change that variable. Okay, so we'll have a variable which will hold the data, and we'll have a function which will be able to change that data. So now we have a use state, we have number, name, and address as in hard-coded data added. Let us try to see whether the data is visible or not. And to run the application, in case of React, I'll just try to use npm start. Okay, this will run the React application. We'll just have to see the hard-coded data and how the data is seen on the browser. It is here. Let's see how does it look like. It's a hard-coded data. Okay, what goes wrong on the console? Okay, let me see. I guess we made a change. We have a dashboard here, but in the index.js, I did not mention what to render. It is all empty. So I need to convey that let us start rendering dashboard. Okay, so let us start showing dashboard to the end user, which is going to be coming from DB file. Now, if I refresh, I should be able to see the content on the server out here. Here you go. So we have a data available out here. Okay, the table is there, number, name, and address. So data can be seen for Anush and Bhautik. This is hard-coded data, keep it in mind. We are yet to go ahead and maybe make the changes with respect to server side. Okay, there's the edit and remove kind of columns, but I haven't utilized those things as of now. Okay, so yes, we can see the data. To ensure that there is a enough gap available, I'll just try to add here in a style some sort of what you call as margin. So I'll be adding margin from all sides, which is 50 pixel, hard-coded margin. So let's have hard-coded margin added 50%. Let's go ahead. And now this is something at 100%. This is how it looks like. Okay, this is how it looks like. Maybe it's not good. And I'll just try to add more margin like 100. Okay, this is how it looks like now. So this is the data which is hard-coded. But we are not looking for hard-coded data, guys. We are looking for data from the server side. Okay. And to get the data from server side, what you need is you need basically a call to be given to server side. So let's delete this data. This is working fine and absolutely fine. We have the idea now. Okay. So what is it that we are interested in? We need to populate the data into the employees collection. Now, those who are, well known to React, normally to get the data only once, we just need data to be collected only once. And for that purpose, what I'm going to go and do is I'm going to add a method over here. Okay. And that method would be something like, let's say, a constant, something like get employees. Okay. This will be a method that we'll be utilizing. So get employees is a method. Okay. And this method is going to go and shoot a call to a server side and get the data. To give the data or call to a server side, we have options available. We can use Axios for the same. Axios internally uses XML HTTP request kind of an object and then shoots a call to the server side. So I'll be using Axios dot. There's a very nice method called as get. And I'll be shooting call now to some URL. I'm just going to go and hold the URL call. So I'll have var URL, okay, server side or server URL. Okay, server or URL to API, so API URL equal to. And that API URL is going to be, what was the URL specifically we use? This EMBase URL, okay? So I'll just try to have here this URL put up. So this is the API URL we wish to call. We can change this URL once the server side is hosted. So this API URL, we are supposed to shoot a call to. Once the call is over, okay, then we're going to go and get a reply. So once the call gets over, you saw the get call basically gives us this data. This data will be made available in here, maybe as a result. Okay, then as a result. And then this particular result data, we can always try to hold over here. So normally, result dot data is going to go and hold everything, which means what did we receive? We are going to go and receive from server side the entire collection. The entire array will be available in a result.data automatically. And what we are supposed to do right now is we are supposed to use set EMPS method to set the data in the EMPS collection. So here we go, and we can say set EMPS, and I can just say result.data, which means all the data basically collected in result, which is a collection, set EMPS method will set it to EMPS. Okay, this collection. Now we are only interested in calling this get EMPS. Okay, the method is written, but we haven't called it yet. And to shoot a call only once, we will need to use another hook in case of React. And that hook is called as use effect. Okay. Use effect basically shoots a call to this method. Okay, which I'm writing right now. Use effect shoots a call to this particular method only once if at all I have this empty square brackets added, which means no dependencies. Okay. A hook to call get EMPS method only once. Okay. Once and first time. So to call this, we will shoot a call to get EMPS over here. So we'll shoot a call to get EMPS out here. So whenever, the page basically gets rendered, whenever this UI gets shown, what happens is there is a first time this get EMPS method gets called. Get EMPS will internally shoot a call to a server, this URL, and will basically get the data which will be added into this EMPS collection. So overall, what happens? Initially, we'll have a blank UI. Then this method gets called. Then get EMPS gets called internally. Get EMPS shoots a call to server side because we have given this URL out here. Whenever reply comes up, the reply is basically given to set EMPS method, which will set up EMPS ka collection. And this EMPS collection, once changes, this UI will be recreated because EMPS changes. There is a recreation of this UI which happens internally. And now we should be able to see the data as well. Okay. So let's try run this. First of all, we need to run the .NET application as well. So if I shoot a call to .NET application, let's run the .NET app first and keep it running because it's 5284, that's a server. Okay. Let's also plan to refresh the web. Okay. So we're calling 3000 port number. And whenever we try to run this first, notice what happens here. When you shoot a call, okay, on the console, you end up getting an error. And this is the very famous error, if you have seen. The error is, a CORS policy. Okay, which means what has happened? React application is running on port number 3000. It is like abc.com. And it is trying to shoot a call to another website which is running at 5284. Okay, it's like pqr.com. So it is like abc.com trying to shoot a call to pqr.com, and pqr.com won't be able to give the data that belongs to itself. It won't be able to give the data because the port number, I mean, the application itself is different. It's like A website is trying to get a data from B website, and B website by default denies it over the web. So we wish to convey, okay, we wish to convey that let us allow on .NET side, let us allow and entertain the calls to the React application, or let us entertain the calls on the server, to the server side API from these origins and these domains. So it basically mentions access control allow origin header, is supposed to be present. In the sense what? We need to make some changes in the .NET server side so that we can allow the calls to this API/EMPS, from React application. So by default, React application when tries to shoot a call to .NET, the call is denied because it's like abc.com giving call to xyz.com. A website calling B website. And B website basically says, I cannot give you the data because it belongs to me. And to make these changes and allow these things, what you need is you need a CORS policy. Okay, kind of cross origin request policy. And to do so, you can configure it as a administrator, you can configure this as a developer of the server side application. So the changes are expected on the server side now in the .NET code. So now you have seen that the call goes but call fails. Okay, and separately the React application works. So what we can do, we can go to the dependencies. We need to allow some sort of, we can say, websites so that we can visit from React side this particular application. To do so, you need a package. Okay, let's add a package, and the package name is search for enable course. Okay. And we have here Microsoft ASP.NET Core course. That's the package name. Let's add this package, okay, into the application. What this package basically gives you, this package will install some number of libraries, and that package will actually offer you something. It will offer you a kind of a attribute called as enable course. So this is not sufficient having enable course as an attribute. Sorry, not here. We'll need it in case of EMPS control. So we'll need it here. Okay, so we'll need it here. Enable course. So enable course as an attribute is not only sufficient, because how do I mention something like which kind of a sites to allow? Because enable course is just a way, it's just extra metadata, it's just extra information we are going to want to provide about EMPS controller. But what is the extra information we need to provide? That information we need to convey something. Yeah, we need to convey the information something like what sort of origins are supposed to be allowed, whether to allow get post put delete, whether to basically allow some sort of customized headers or so. So that has to be conveyed. And to do so, what you need to convey is a policy name. Now, how do I mention the policy name and how do I convey the policy name? So for that purpose, we are supposed to go to program.cs. Okay. And just like global objects, we added a global object only for controllers sake, like controllers factory, for example. We need to add a couple of more services. So we need to add a service dot add, and we have something which is called as add course. Okay, that's one thing we need. Okay, and now in add course, you have certain options available. As you can see, course options, it's a kind of lambda expression expected. Okay, the action lambda expression. So we'll just say, okay, we'll have course options. It's a method which is expected. So options, let's say course options passed on, and this is closed. And under the course options, okay, we have option available to add a policy. Okay, so we can actually go ahead and specify certain policies wherein we can convey what sort of domains, what sort of headers, what sort of methods are supposed to be allowed. So we have add policy. It will simply say policy. Okay, so I'll just say policy 1, for example. So policy number 1. Okay, so policy number 1. And what the policy number 1 says, so we can convey again another action method. We can convey the policy details. We can convey that the policy says, okay, with something which is called as origins. So which origins are we supposed to allow? We can convey star. Okay, all origins are supposed to be allowed, all domains. What kind of what you call as methods are supposed to be allowed? I can convey star, which means get, post, put, delete, all kind of calls are supposed to be allowed from React application. Okay, calls are to be allowed from all websites. Calls are allowed from which are like all methods, get, post, put, delete. And also we would like to allow all kind of headers, which means in case we are going to go and pass on the data and convey key, content type is going to be something like, let's say, JSON, or for that matter, let's say if it's going to be authorization related header, if we pass on. So we need to convey, I wish to allow all the headers. Okay. So this is something which is rule of chaining, we call it as. So via rule of chaining, we are going to go and define one policy, and that policy, creation, let's call this after the policy creation, the policy is called as policy 1. In case you wish to add, you can add several other policies as well, one after another. I can say policy number 2, and I can convey the policy number 2, or maybe policy number 1. I can convey this is only going to allow maybe abc.com. So only abc.com will be allowed. Which methods are supposed to be allowed? Get and post, for example. Which headers? Let's say all. I can also convey policy number 2 may say that xyz.com whenever shoots a call, so I only will allow delete kind of operations or only get operations. So whenever abc.com visits, I need a get and post and this. Whenever xyz.com, I can also put here comma, and you can put something else as well if you want, some other website names. So policy number 2 says that xyz.com will only be entertained for get request. And maybe policy number 3, we can have star, 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 everything allowed. So choice is yours now, whether the policy 1 to be used, whether policy 2 to be used, and policy 3 to be used. So right now I'm interested in using a policy number 3. So I'll just convey in enable course, I can convey something like, okay, the policy name. So I would convey policy name is equal to, I am interested in applying policy number 3 at the moment. Okay. So this is policy 3 that I'll be applying out here. So in the EMPS controller, when get, post, put, delete calls are allowed, I wish to apply policy number 3, and policy number 3 says star, star, star. Everyone is allowed. Every method call, get, post, put, delete is allowed, and every header is allowed. So based on the choices, what you can have is you can have the policies defined. The next thing is by default, course kind of a call will be eventually what you call it as, will fail if at all we have authorization, maybe to be handled. So in that case, what is expected is after the authorization, what we expect is app dot, there's another kind of middleware method we expect, use course, which is the extension method. So enable course is something that will convey. So I guess this is something which we need to add first. So after routing, allow the what you call as cross origin calls, and then go for authorization. So now what I'm going to go and do, I'm going to go and run the application again. Okay. Let us see whether the normal, call works. Let's wait. So we have applied the policy. We have applied the cross origin request, or we have allowed the calls. Let us try to see if at all the calls can be entertained. I mean, let's try to see first of all, normal call can work. So slash API slash EMPS. This I believe anyway works. Yeah. Okay. This is only server running. Let's jump to the client now. Okay, this is where we failed, right? So let's refresh again in React application. Can you see the data is available from the server side now? So we have all the data available from server side. So this is the data which was basically, in .NET, it was available. Now we have all the data available from .NET server side. I hope everybody understands this. React is creating UI on the browser side and server is just providing the reply. Is everybody getting this? This is not hard-coded data. This is the data from server side. Yes, everyone? I hope everybody is getting this. Yep. Sure. Okay. Now let's do one thing. Since we can see the data being collected, okay, so we can have the data now available. Now we are interested in more or less like, do the rest of the CRUD operations. Okay. So what we need is now we need the CRUD operations to be handled. So let's have the rest of the part handled now. That is, maybe adding a record or something. So to do so, there is a one thing available though. In a console, there is an error. Okay, so TH cannot be child of T head, it says. So we'll need a TR. Okay, it's very particular about the UI part. We are expecting 0 warnings. So under the DBJSX, I guess T head, this is not expected. T head will have a TR first, and TR will have a TH. Okay, so we can get rid of all the warnings. Let's go ahead and see if warnings are gone. Refresh again. Okay, there is one more warning. Each child should have a unique key property. So the thing is, specifically, React DOM basically works on something like virtual DOM. Okay, so in a virtual DOM, to manipulate, what we need is we need a unique identity. So just like in case of routine JavaScript, I need an ID. Specifically for React to deal with virtual DOM, we need something that is a key property. So I'll just add a key here. It has to be unique. Let's have this number added as a unique thing. Okay, so I guess that would be it. Okay, so all warnings must be gone now in this application. So clean this, refresh it. All warnings gone, and we can see the data out here. Okay, so there are 0 warnings now available out here on the console. So we are interested now in something which is like, the addition part or addition part, for example. So to do so, I also need a couple of TDs here. Otherwise, the look is not good. So edit and delete. Okay. So if you can see the UI now, this is how it looks like. Okay. So I'm to click on edit. I'm yet to click on delete. And after click, the addition and deletion should happen. But then for that purpose, let us try to have the addition related UI created first. So we need to collect the data from the end user. So we'll be interested in collecting the data from the end user. And to do so, let's do one thing now. There is an empty table that I created in the, some time back when we created the first table. So in this empty table, I am interested in basically showcasing the a data which is like name, address, phone number, blah, blah, blah. And to do so, let's add out here a tr, a td. Give me a minute. I'll have one td for number. I'll have another td for the showcasing number. Okay. So I need to have here input tag, which is going to be used only for number. Okay. So only for number. And then we need to showcase the number of the record being edited. Okay. So whichever record we wish to edit, we need to have the content available. So number, we can have a value which basically can be collected from. Okay. We need to showcase the value. To showcase the value, I need to have another state right now. So this is only for collection. Now individual records we need to hold. So for that purpose, I'll need a EMP. Okay. A current employee with which is under deletion, which is under addition, which is under updation, which is under creation. All the current employees will be held in EMP object here. And to set that employee object, I'll have another method called as setEMP. One more time, I'll be using use state. And then to hold the data, I'll be using something like this. I'll be using the content like this. I'll be using number will be 0. Okay. I'll be using name, that would be blank. And I'll be using address, that will also be blank. Keep it in mind, number, name, and address, N capital, A capital, because that is something we want to send to the server side. If you notice, in the API calls, what we did is in here, sorry, in the post call, for example, I try to send the data with the help of capital N, capital A, because server side will expect EMP N capital, A capital. Okay. But while we collected the data was collected and it was basically passed on in a JSON format in small letters to us. So what we are going to go and do is I'll have the number, name, and address. Okay. The single employee I need to showcase. So to do so, let us try to say, let us show the data of employee dot number. Let us show the data of employee dot number. Let us also try to convey, okay, whenever somebody tries to do the text change over here. Okay. Whenever somebody changes the data in the text box, then let us shoot a call to a method, which can be a method out here. Let's call it as constant on text change. That's the method we'll be writing. Okay. So whenever somebody changes data inside this input box, then let us call for on text change. So what will happen whenever somebody types something in the text box? We will be able to get all the data out here as an arguments. Okay, it's an old technique. It's 90s technique. That is, whenever somebody changes the data in the text box and whenever on change event gets fired and when method gets called, we'll have arguments available over here. It's a very, very old technique. I mean, it's a technique which is like, maybe 25 plus years people have been using. So once we get the arguments, what exactly argument will hold? So we will have the idea, okay, that arguments dot, okay, target. When you say argument dot target, you will be able to get entire input box. And when you say dot value and when you say dot name, we'll be able to understand dot value in the sense, what's the current value entered by the user, and name in the sense, what basically is being changed out here. So we are interested in holding that data in EMP. Okay, we are interested in holding the data in EMP. And to do so, what we are going to go and do is to make the changes in the employee itself. See, the employee is basically holding empty data initially. Whenever somebody types in this text box, only number will change. So I wish to change the number of employee. EMP dot number is supposed to be changed. But you cannot just go ahead and change employee dot number because employee itself needs to be invalidated. And that's the reason what we are supposed to do is we will create a new employee altogether. And how do you create an exact copy of an employee? You may create a copy of employee like this. You may have here a variable copy of employee object equal to, and to create a copy in JavaScript, you can use triple dot operator, which is spread operator. So we'll say copy of EMP itself. Create a copy of employee. And then with args.target.value, you will know the latest value, but that value is of number. With this, you also know there is a name. You can see input also has a name. So you will anyway know that number is being changed. So here with name, you will know what is being changed. With value, you will know what exactly is getting changed to. So for that purpose, you can just convey, since it's a JSON, you can convey that I wish to, okay, I wish to change, see, name, number. I wish to change the number of the employee to this particular value. And this will hold a latest employee, changed employee in copy of employee object. And to make the changes with the employee itself, you will have to use set EMP. And set EMP may, you are supposed to provide copy of employee object. This is one of the trick that people keep on using to make the changes from the text boxes available to the EMP itself. And now we just have to keep on repeating this. So repeat this specifically for the name. We can convey the name. We can convey employee.name. We can convey out here something which is called as on text change as is. Copy this, paste it here. Make sure you change the address to. Here we have an address. Here we'll have an address and here on text change. Okay. So whenever somebody tries to type something in the boxes, we will have a number, we'll have a name, we'll have an address. Although we don't want user to enter the number. We really don't wish to enter the number. So we can skip this particular part for a while. We are not interested in the number itself. Okay. So we can skip this part. So now we have number is not changeable. So we can just skip this. Name is what user will enter. Address is what user will enter. And later on, we will have 1TD with the call span equal to 2. Okay. And we just need a button to do the addition into the database. So we'll need a button. Okay. We can plan to use here a class which can be button and btn dash primary. We can convey button text as in add record. Okay. And whenever somebody tries to click on this, so we can just say on click and we can simply say a method called add record. So I need a method called as add record now. This method does not exist. So let's prepare add record as a method. Okay. So constant add record. Now you know whenever changes happens, all the changes are available in the EMP itself. Because whenever somebody types something in the boxes, text boxes, I have everything available in the EMP object. And add record method, when the button gets clicked, we wish to send that employee using Axios call to the server side. So what we are interested in is axios.post. And this API is supposed to be called, and after comma, we are supposed to provide the employee. See, when an add record button gets clicked, let us call the API and let us pass on the employee. This will only set the employee object. This will pass the employee object to server side. And whenever result comes up, okay, when result comes up, we know that result basically comes up with a status. So result has a status. You saw some status sometime back in the postman, and you can just check if the status is equal 200, which means we have successfully inserted data into the database. We are supposed to, after successful insertion of record into database, what is it that we are interested in? We are interested in resetting this particular employee back to the normal one. So set employee back to normal one. And in case expected, in case required, you can also have an alert over here, data added in database. That is something, a message which we can provide. And keep it in mind, after this, a refresh should happen. And to do so, what you can plan to do is, you can always shoot a call to get EMPS. So shoot a call to get EMPS by yourself. Again, get EMPS will simply get the latest data and showcase it in the UI. Okay, let us see if it works. Go to the browser. You can see it here. Refresh. I guess all good. TR cannot be part of a table. And where is the issue? Table responsive, I guess the first one. Let us see where we did make a mistake again. There's a table. Acha. This is supposed to go in a T body. Okay. All of these TRs which we are using. This is supposed to go in T body. So let's cut this. Let's add here T body. And let's add all of this here. Let's go to the browser again. See if at all. Okay, there are no warnings right now here. And you can see two things available right now. Name is there and address is there. I'm supposed to type in the name now. Let's try to enter a name over here. Let's say Sushant. Okay, Sushant from Mumbai. So we have the data added. Now, if I click on a button, the post call will be given to a server side. And then after all, this text boxes will be made empty because employee will be made empty after that. And this data is something which has to be changed now. Now, fourth record is there. Now the new record must be seen from the database. Let's click on the button. Data added into the database and EMPS map is not a function. Okay, let's see. Did we do something wrong here? Let's see. In the server side, do I have the data added? Okay, there's a sixth record available. I believe there's a small mistake. Okay, so we have data added. We called get EMPS, set EMPS we called. Okay, maybe refresh will definitely get us the data. Yeah, refresh gets us the data. EMPS map is not a function. Let us see. Oh, I guess I made a mistake. I called here set EMPS. It should be set EMP, by the way. This should be set EMP method, not set EMPS. Okay. After addition of a record, it should be set employee because we wanted to make the text boxes empty. Yeah, correct. So let's do the check again. Okay, clean and refresh. Let's add here another record. Let's add another record of, let's say, okay, maybe Vishal. Let's see, it should work now. Yes. And now the data is available out here. We don't need that alert. Alert was just for the sake of knowing that. Now alert is no more there. So we can just check now. Let's add Vijay and Chennai. Let's see. See, the latest data is available right now. So which means what we have done, we have got the data. We also added the data into the database and we can see the latest data keep on coming from the server side. Now we are supposed to simply edit the record. Okay. So on an edit click, we are interested in showcasing this data in these text boxes. Okay. You are not supposed to do anything at all because these text boxes are bound to show the data from emp.name, emp.address and emp.number. Okay. In that case, to showcase the employee's data, you're just supposed to set the employee. That's it. And to do so, whenever somebody clicks on edit button, keep it in mind. Here we go. Whenever somebody clicks on edit button, what we're supposed to do is set the employee only, nothing else. So on a edit button click, okay, here in this TD, whenever somebody clicks on edit button, so you need a button first. Okay, so let's have a button. Let's call this as edit. And on click, what we are supposed to do is we are supposed to simply call set employee, set EMP. Okay, under set EMP. And what we can set EMP, now keep it in mind, there's a number, name and address. Okay, so I'm supposed to, this number, name and address is in small letters, the data that we received. But in case we wish to set up an employee, we need to have this number, name and address in this way mentioned. So what we'll do it here itself. Okay, so whenever somebody clicks on edit button, let us try to set up an employee. Number is supposed to be set up to employee.number. Okay, name is supposed to be set up to employee's name in here, and address is supposed to be set up to employee.address. Okay, so we'll be setting up employee's number, employee's name, and employee's address. Okay, this is something that we are done with. emp.address. I guess this is it. Yeah, there is one more round bracket. So on a button click, we'll be setting up the employee. So what will happen now, whenever you click on an edit button will also have a class. Let's have a class name as in button and btn dash warning, the typical bootstrap classes. Okay, so edit click will simply set up the employee in here. And once it's done, we'll be able to see the data in the text boxes. So we can see this here. If I click on this Bhautik's record, for example, if I edit, you can see Bhautik's record here. If I click on Anurag's record, I can see Anurag here. If I click on Sushant's record, I can just Sushant over here. So the thing is, we are able to see the data available for editing purpose. Now, whenever some changes are done by the people, okay, those changes will anyway happen in EMP. But then we are not supposed to click on add record after that. We are supposed to click on update record after that. So I'll just try to have over here one space and then not here. After this, let's try to have here some space, a pipe for that matter. And let's try to add another add record button. Okay, so just like this button, let's add another button. Let's call this button as in update record. Okay, we can just call this as button success. So specifically, whenever somebody clicks on this update record button, I wish to call a method called as update record. Okay, and update record, there is no method like update record. So let's copy this add record method only. Let us plan to copy paste add record method. Let us try to put the method as in update record. And update record, anyway, we'll have everything available in EMP itself, which means any changes which basically people do will be there in the EMP itself. You know that. So what we can do, some changes, because the API URL is basically only for EMPs. We need to pass slash and the number because number goes in the header and rest of the employee details goes in a body. So what we are supposed to do is we are supposed to change the API URL. So we'll just say var update URL is equal to, let's have this URL plus, let us try to copy slash and emp.number is something that we will be holding in the update URL. The rest of the employee will go. And instead of post, let us call this as a put. So it's going to be a put request, right? Again, we'll get a result. Again, we'll get a 200. Again, we'll have the employee, put up as this. Again, we'll have get EMPs done and all the updates will be done successfully. Okay, let us see if it works. Okay, this is update record button. Refresh this right now. There is nothing in here. So let's say we have Anushka record. Let's say record. Let's change Anuj and let's change Anuj to Anush Kumar. And we'll have something like, Pune to suppose Panji. And let's say update record. Let's see what happens out here and here. Update record. Can you see Anuj Kumar and Panji is updated now? And can you see tick boxes are empty? So you add a data, click on add record, record gets added. You click on edit, change the, what you call as the editable data, and then update is something that you are supposed to click on. And finally, and the last and the very important and very simple thing right now, what we need is just like update record, you need one more method. Let's call this as delete record. In delete record, literally, it's the same URL that we are supposed to put here. Okay. Instead of put, we are supposed to call delete. Okay. We're supposed to call delete. We'll just try to put here delete record. Okay. We don't need to pass on EMP now because only number is sufficient. When the result status is clear, we are not interested in even set EMP. Okay. In case we need, we can just keep the set EMP itself. And then we can just have everything emptied and then we can just have get EMPs. It's that easy. And how are we supposed to call this delete record? Just go ahead and just like we have this, in here added because it's per record. So we can just have just like this TD added. Okay. We just have to pass on set EMP. We don't need even the entire employee. Okay. We don't need this. What we can plan to do is we can just call the method itself. What was the method? Delete record. And let's just pass on this emp.number. I guess that is sufficient. We don't need everything else. We need only this much. Okay. Let's call delete record and call this as delete. And let's call this as change. Okay. So whenever button gets clicked, we'll be calling delete record method. We'll just pass the number. And in the delete record method above, we'll just expect that number. We don't need even, we can just minimize the things. Plus, I just need the number. And whenever deletion happens, we don't need this because setting up one more time empty is not rated. We just need the get impulse, that's it. Let us see if it works. So we have the delete record as well. Let us delete Vijay's record. See if record is getting deleted. Let's delete Vishal's record. It's getting deleted. Let us change Anushka record. Again, Anush Kumar to Anuj and Panji to Pune. Let's say update the record. You can see Anushka record is updated. Let us add another record. Let's add Mahesh and Tony. Say add a record, and you can see addition is also happening. I hope everybody understands the CRUD operations now easily. Yes, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, great. Questions, concerns, queries? It was quick and mostly demo, discussion, but we tried everything from the scratch. And I believe that, it's clear now that it's actually very easy to deal with the, simple CRUD operations with the React and server side. Now, whether we are using .NET as a server side or Node as a server side, it really doesn't matter. It will be similar kind of a process that people can follow. At least in .NET, it's easier to create APIs. When it comes to Node, you will have to end up writing something like, Express-based code. Maybe you can handle routes separately. We can have a separate session about making something like, how do I make the APIs safe in terms of maybe it can be JWT based or it can be, maybe credentials based or role based. So we can have a separate session planned. Rather, we are planning a series every Saturday. So, just be there on LinkedIn, just be updated about, the happenings. And then you will have, sessions covered every Saturday on some other topic. Okay. And if anybody is interested in delivering some sort of maybe sessions, do let me know on the WhatsApp group or maybe on the LinkedIn. You can also deliver and you can contribute into the community. Okay. I guess it was all clear. I'll be sharing the video. I'll be sharing the demonstrations. I'll also be sharing the images that we have prepared on the WhatsApp group. Okay. I guess it was quick and hope it has given you some sort of insight. Okay. Are we good to stop? Any questions, concerns if you have? Yeah. Yeah, I'll be sharing the video. Okay. Thank you, everyone. And, see you next Saturday. Thank you.